Shalom, family. It's good to see everybody here. We're going to talk about what's going on with all of these people being sent to El Salvador, but it's not just that. That is not the only thing I was intending to talk about. I was also going to talk about how Bukele and Trump had a hot mic moment where they were talking about sending homegrown people to El Salvador prisons. So that means the people that were born and raised and are American citizens. Okay. I absolutely was not just talking about immigrants. And one thing that we know about Gentiles, they don't do just one thing and that's the end. No, they always got to expand upon and expand upon everything that they do. So I'm never surprised when they are doing something with the immigrants and they're talking about doing the same thing to American citizens because this is how they are wired, you know, and this is how they think. It's just like if we went to an apple orchard and we looked at the apples and they smell good and we may want to pick one and eat the apple, right? When they walk into that same orchard, they would look around and say, wow, look at all these apples. If I pick all these apples, I can take them somewhere and sell them all. That's how they think. They would not just love and admire the orchard and and be grateful that you are able to be there to just get an apple or two for yourself. They don't think like that. They are wired completely differently. So I'm going to start out by playing a video from MSNBC. And I just want y'all to hear and see what's going on because we are just looking at what's going on the surface. There's a lot going on beyond that. All right. All right. So let's get started. Let me share my screen. Please give me a one if you can see my screen. Please give me a one if you can see the screen. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. All right.
Okay, the tape is a little hard to hear, but if you listen closely, you can just make out what the president is saying as he enters the Oval Office today with the president of El Salvador.
Criminals next. Yeah. I said homegrowns are next. The homegrowns. You got to build about 5 more places. Yeah, that's fair. All right.
Laughter all around. That was Donald Trump today talking to the president of El Salvador, a man who calls himself the world's coolest dictator. And you could hear there what sounded like Trump promising that he's about to send to a prison in El Salvador the, quote, homegrowns, meaning U.S. citizens. He says homegrowns are next. You're going to need to build about 5 new places. The Trump administration has flown hundreds of non-U.S. citizens to this foreign prison in El Salvador already, including 10 more that they flew there this weekend. Even though the U.S. government has sent these people to this prison, the Trump administration says they have no protection under U.S. law there, that this facility doesn't answer to U.S. courts. The people sent there are just gone. They're sent into that prison maybe forever with no way to be heard, no way to contest whatever the designation was that got the U.S. government to send them there.
All right, I'm going to stop right there, y'all. That prison is literally a death camp. That's what it is. And the people that are being sent there now, the intention is to keep them there for the rest of their lives. They're not getting out of there. And what do? They do a lot of hard manual labor for no charge. Those inmates don't get anything. Every last one of them do hard manual labor for free. And they do this for the rest of their breathing days. There is no chance. Once you go there, there's no chance of getting out. There's no way out at all, except for you coming out in a body bag. So that's what Donald Trump is doing to these illegals. And he's now talking about doing it to the homegrowns, which are people like us that were born from parents that were born here and descendants of slaves. He said, we're next. That's who he wants. He wants Bukele to build more facilities to make room for the homegrowns. All right, so let me continue.
Certainly no way to get out, ever. Are homegrowns really next? Would the American president send American citizens to indefinite, totally lawless, apparently permanent imprisonment in El Salvador as well? Is he open to that? Apparently, yes, he is.
If it's a homegrown criminal, I have no problem. Now, we're studying the laws right now. Pam is studying. If we can do that, that's good. And
if we can do that, that's good. Pam, meaning Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. So he wants.
All right. Y'all, if Donald Trump does this, let's be real. If Donald Trump does this, it ain't going to be nothing but what they classify as black and brown people being sent there. He ain't hardly going to send white folks. He ain't going to send them. Let's be real. Okay? He ain't going to send his people, but he'll gladly send us and some brown people down there and put you in manual labor, hard labor for the rest of your life and no way out. He ain't going to send them white boys sitting up in prison. They're not the ones going. All right, let's go on.
Wants to send American citizens to foreign prisons where U.S. legal protections don't apply at all, where people can be held for the rest of their lives without ever having a day in court or any sort of process. He says Attorney General Pam Bondi is, quote, studying the laws right now to see if he really could do it because he'd love to do it. It was only last week on Thursday when the Supreme Court ruled unanimously 9-0 in favor of a man named Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's a legal resident. He's a Maryland father. The Trump administration admits they sent him to that prison in El Salvador by mistake. The Supreme Court effectively ordered the Trump administration to facilitate this man's return to the U.S. from that El Salvadoran prison without explicitly defining what that would look like. The Trump administration has insisted that they can't return him, and they don't intend to. They said that the man's fate is up to the president of El Salvador for some reason. Today in the Oval Office, it was a reporter who finally asked El Salvador's president if he would please return this man to the United States. The El Salvadoran president called the question, quote, preposterous. Of course he wouldn't. So we have here a
Okay. The reason why they won't send him back is because they already paid Bukele to keep him, along with all of the other undocumented people they're sending there. So they won't send him back because he's already paid for to stay there. Although he did not commit any crimes and he was legally, here legally, they're still not going to send him back because He's paid for, y'all. They already paid for him. $6 million was given to Bukele to take and keep these people at his facility forever. That's what he was given. This government gave Bukele $6 million to keep these people behind bars with no rights doing manual labor for the rest of their lives. Now, if he's doing this to them, you don't think he's going to do this to people like us? Of course he is. Donald Trump think everybody that is melanated is a criminal, except for him with 34 indictments on him. He think we're a bigger criminal than he is. But that's how he thinks. So let's go on.
Constitutional nightmare, a legal nightmare, obviously a moral nightmare. Cheryl Eiffel is the former president of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. She has been sounding the alarm about this. She has argued that Trump will start testing constitutional limits by trying to deport U.S. citizens from American prisons to places like El Salvador, and that Americans, in order to stop that slippery slope where it is, must take on the challenge of caring about and standing up for U.S. prisoners. Quote, many of us have been working on how to legally head off this nightmare, but public outcry and support will be essential. Are you ready to march for the most despised members of our society? Will you call your representatives about those who are imprisoned? If you can't feel for them or their families, remember that this is just a stage in a plan that will land ultimately at our own doorsteps. Every one of us deemed inconvenient by this administration will be under threat. And every time Trump is successful, he grows more emboldened and more convinced that nothing can stop him. Joining us now is Cheryl Eiffel. She's the Vernon E. Jordan Jr. Distinguished Chair in Civil Rights at Howard Law School. Ms. Eiffel, it's been too long. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you, Rachel.
You wrote this piece over the weekend, sort of sounding the alarm. He's talking about U.S. citizens. He's talking about U.S. citizens. This is a constitutional end. This is an end of constitutional protections in the United States in a really fundamental way. That was before today's Oval Office meeting, where the president very cheerfully confirmed that, oh yes, he's talking about doing this to U.S. citizens too. Is the president actually moving faster than you thought he might? Are you at least pleased that the American public have to see this as clearly now as you have been?
Yes, and I very much thank you for this conversation tonight, Rachel. I've been sounding the alarm because Trump has been saying it over and over. In fact, he started out when his family first met with the president of El Salvador a couple of months ago. And he said then that the president of El Salvador was interested in housing U.S. prisoners. He said it again the other night as he was exiting or entering his plane. I don't remember which one it was, where he talked about this again. He said, for our worst of the worst, people who knock old ladies over the head, people who push people in front of subway trains, or if you had a bad judge and a bad prosecutor who didn't do the case right because they only care about politics. He's been repeating this over and over again. He tweeted that he can't wait to see people who attack Teslas face incarceration in El Salvadoran prison.
Right. Okay. So that is the thing. This is why I'm telling y'all, I know right now they are sending illegals, but Donald Trump wants to get around to sending American inmates over there. So if you got a brother, sister, father, cousin, uncle that's behind bars, once they get flown over to El Salvador, you are never going to see them again. They are not coming back. All right, because that's what he's doing to these undocumented people. Once they go in there, they're not coming out, and they're going to do the same thing to U.S. citizens. This is why it's not that this guy is Latino and that's all I'm focused on. No, I'm looking beyond that at what he is saying. And when they say take our prisoners out and move them to El Salvador, who did they mass incarcerate, y'all? Who did they mass incarcerate? That's what you need to pay attention to. And I also want you to keep in mind of all of the exonerations. There are thousands, if not millions, of people behind bars that didn't even commit a crime here in the US. And if Donald Trump gets what he wants, those innocent people will no longer have a chance of getting exonerated. They're going to end up going to El Salvador and just dying there, and they never committed a crime in the first place. Do you see what's going on here? This is what I'm trying to bring to your attention. It's not just about this one guy that's over there. And if Donald Trump keeps repeating something, you can best believe he's already working behind the scenes to make this happen. That's what I want you to see. All right, let's go on.
Prisons. And by now, we know Trump a little bit. We know that when he keeps saying something over and over again, he is not joking. We know that he is incapable of holding his cards close to his chest when they are having discussions about these things. And we've seen two new reports. One was in Politico this weekend about plans. One is Stephen Miller's plan to do a mass denaturalization of naturalized U.S. citizens who are incarcerated. We saw, can you believe it, the name Eric Prince again, who apparently is involved in an effort to use private prisons in El Salvador and in other countries, with the U.S. perhaps entering into a treaty of cession, something I really think about when I think about maybe getting Alaska from Russia, a treaty of cession so that the U.S. would control the territory in that country, and therefore there could be no claim that U.S. citizens were being moved off of U.S. soil. It's crazy and diabolical, but it's real.
When Attorney General Pam Bondi does this studying, as the president said today, when she looks into the legality of this, which the president continually says he doesn't understand, doesn't really care about, wants to find out whether or not it's legal, it's being looked into. What is she going to find when she looks into U.S. case law and constitutional protections to find whether or not this is something that they could legally do?
Well, it's a strange thing. If she didn't find the Fifth Amendment that says every person in the United States, person, not citizen, is entitled to due process of law, cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process, which should have stopped the deportation of Mr. Abregu Garcia and others who received no due process. I'm not sure what she's likely to find with this look. I think there are two things to think about here. One is that, as almost everyone knows, there are nearly 2 million people incarcerated in the United States. Most of them are in state prisons, not in federal prison. The person who assaulted the old lady is most likely not in federal prison. There are about 200,000 people in our federal prisons. So I'm not sure the population that Trump is looking at, if it is the state prison population, that creates complications for him. And in any case, we have a constitution that prevents cruel and unusual punishment. Sending folks here who are incarcerated to what has been identified as a torture prison, as a prison that the warden of CCOT in El Salvador said is the prison no one ever leaves. That is simply a violation of the constitutional rights of prisoners. Prisoners who are citizens of this country are United States citizens, and they have the rights of citizens. And so I don't have any faith that Pam Bondi will, in her research, will feel bound by that. But that is the state of the law. And that's why so many of us have been looking at this very closely and preparing. Because I think, as you alluded to earlier, Rachel, when the plane takes off, the plane takes off. That's what happened to Mr. Abregu Garcia. This administration has made clear they're not interested in lifting a finger to get people back, even people who were wrongfully, well, they were all wrongfully shipped to El Salvador, but certainly this individual was by concession wrongfully sent to El Salvador. So it's very, very alarming, very, very frightening, and something we have to get out ahead of.
Cheryl Eiffel, Howard Law School professor and friend to this show for a very long time. Thank you for your time tonight. We're going to stay very closely on this story. We'd love to have you back soon as it
Thank you.
as it develops. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel.
Y'all, if Donald Trump pulls this off with American citizens, the Constitution is dead. It's dead. It really, truly don't mean anything. So if he is shipping these illegals over without due process, he's going to do the same thing to the men that are incarcerated in this country. It's just like the doorway to no return. This is like part 2 of that. So El Salvador is that doorway to no return. So once he clears out the jails and fly the inmates over there, this is it. They're not ever coming back. That's why they call that prison a death prison, because that's the only way you're coming out of there. So if he does this to U.S. citizens, then it's not going to matter if you commit a big crime or a minor crime, or no crime at all, like we have seen with the exonerations. Everybody can end up over there. Donald Trump has got to be running the most evil administration I have ever seen in my life. Even the thought that he can come up with this in his head and believe this is okay to do tells you how diabolical this man really, truly is. He is diabolical. So one thing, as chosen people, we still got to stay on top of the things that are going on and happening to our people now. You should always be aware of what your enemy is doing. For real. So everybody, make sure you share the video, like the video, and, make sure our people are fully aware of the things that this man is trying to do. We still have to be aware and know what's going on. Monica Gregory, thank you for the super sticker. Freedom 2020. That man seen too much, won't let him out to speak to the public. Backup Trick 44, thank you for the super sticker and your support for my channel. And see, Donald Trump, if he does this, y'all, he's not going to alert the public. By the time you figure out what's going on, it done already happened. That's how he operates. It's going to already happen by the time we get wind of it. So everybody, I will see you at my next live stream, which is at 1:45. And I hope to see each and every one of you there. Shalom, family.